What's up, Rip City? This is Jeremy Grant, and you're catching the breeze on Trailblazers Balcony with Brooke Olzendam and Casey Holdahl.
Greetings, Blazer fans, and welcome to the Blazers Balcony, episode 138 of the Blazers Balcony, presented by Spirit Mountain Casino. I am Casey Holdahl. I'm joined by my friend and co-host, Brooke Olzendam. We are here in Dallas,
Texas.
Brooke Olzendam, Texas. Lone Star State. Texas two-step to finish out 2024. Brooklyn Olzendam, how you doing?
I'm good. Well, I'm okay. I won't bore everyone with it, but like as Casey already knows, we got in last night, and it was one of those nights where I just could not go to sleep. I mean, a lot of people are saying like
so many so that I was kind of in my head. I was like, did we like eat something last night that was like was there like
shrimp and grits,
a caffeinated drink or something they gave us? Because I feel like so many people were like, I could not fall asleep last night, and like we didn't get in dumb late. I mean, it's only it's a longer flight from San Antonio to Dallas than they claimed it was. Like they were like 38 minutes.
No,
and we were like 48 minutes, and I was like,
I thought it was an hour.
It might have been. I was like, someone get this pilot in front of me here. Like, I have to talk to this guy about whether or not this is actually lunch. So yeah, but like a lot of other people said that too. However, your boy Casey Holdahl, I slept great. And the first time, like I didn't sleep very well in San Antonio, but no, I was zonked out last night. So
and you need to carry us today then, because I just can't stop yawning. But then we had practice today, so I think it wasn't initially scheduled for 10. It got moved to later. I was pleased about that.
Yes.
But yeah, they had a great practice today. A nice little film sesh in the corner, and then practice for an hour, 45, hour and a half. I don't know, but it was good, and I got a chance to talk to DA after. We're kind of focusing in on the lob game because we saw a lot of lobs last game. You and I talked to Coach about that afterwards. And so it was funny when I asked him, like, have you guys been practicing that? Because I think there were more in this game than I can recall all season. And he said, actually, yes, a lot of it has to do with screen, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, there's something interesting. This is an interesting story. So talked to DA about it, and he said the same. And Anthony we had talked about the finisher and the passer. And so we're going to focus in a lot on that for next game, because I know that that's something that they've wanted to improve in and do more of. And DA had that really sick one where he was almost like a 360, 180.
Well, so I'm actually going through the game log right now. I'm just searching for Alley. And yeah, they're even more than I remembered. Like I'm only into the second quarter, and there's already been like 5.
Yeah, it was crazy. Crazy. It was great. I mean, also we talked about how that can just really invigorate a team. Like when you finish that, everyone's off the bench, and it can help with momentum in game. So that's something we talked about. It was really great practice. Everyone seemed to be in really great spirits, even though half of us are exhausted.
Yeah. Well, the Trailblazers coming off a 114-94 loss to the San Antonio Spurs Saturday night in San Antonio, after breaking their losing streak versus the Nuggets in the game before we headed out to San Antonio. That was a 126-124 victory, obviously culminating with Ant Simons getting a nice look at the rim to add another game winner to his resume. Mm-hmm. And Blazers, play San Antonio close for the first half. End of the second quarter, I think San Antonio outscored Portland like 16-2 or something like that, and that kind of set them on a bad path. And you're hoping maybe it'd be a little bit of a closer game after they lost by 2 to San Antonio a week and a half back in Portland. But a decent game, as you mentioned, Brooke. And yes, a nice practice today too. And, practices on the road always like feel a little bit different, one, because you don't have a whole lot of them. You're in a different building. So it always has a different feel to it. And, particularly, they lost by 20 to San Antonio. And, I talked to Chauncey after the game. He had mentioned, I was asking about a couple players, and I asked about Shaedon, and he was like, yeah, offensively Shaedon was great, but he was like, defensively, not what I wanted to see, and I didn't feel like anyone was very good defensively. So when you hear Chauncey say that, you think to yourself like, well, I practice tomorrow, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I thought it was a very good practice. It seemed like they got some stuff accomplished. Everyone seemed like they were in a good spirit, and a chance to. This is the last road game of 2024 for the Trailblazers in Dallas on Monday night, 5:30 start time on KATU and Rip City Radio. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can end their road losing streak. Actually, too, do you know the last time the Blazers won a road game, Brooke?
No.
It was in Texas.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was my hint to you.
Well, we lost to Dallas. Wait, this is the first time we went to Dallas. Did we lose to Dallas at home?
We did.
Yeah.
But it was in Texas.
Houston.
Second Houston game, the Houston back-to-back. So, and that was on November 23rd. So played the Mavericks on December 23rd, and hopefully, that'd be a month in between road games. And granted, too, we didn't play many road games in December. Like, it was almost all at home. We didn't play a lot of games in December, actually, for that matter, too, which is why I feel so weird. I guess it's holidays or whatever, but just tired, just feel tired. But a chance to get one more road win before the calendar turns over. I always talk about calendar stuff. Maybe it doesn't really matter because, it's in the middle of the season, but it matters to me, Brooke. Like, I want to talk about calendar year stuff, even though I never actually compile it. But, I'm always like, it's the last of the year. It's the last of the year.
No, you go ahead and do that.
Do you use season and year interchangeably when you're,
I do all the time. Yeah. Like when I'm doing like sideline stories, I make sure to go back and forth, like season, year. You don't want to be saying the same.
But year is incorrect though.
Well, I don't. I'm not as obsessed with the calendar year as you are. That's your thing. I just say year, this year, that year, last year. Yeah. So I'm not a big calendar year. Yeah. I barely know what day it is half the time.
That's true. And I feel like this week too, everyone has been really confused about what the day of the week is.
Yeah.
Because I thought the Denver game was on a Friday, and that has screwed me up for like the last 2 weeks. I had told someone, I was like, oh yeah, we're going to be back on Tuesday. And they're like, you're getting back on Christmas Eve? And I was like, no, Monday. Yeah,
so, I know. It's
whatever.
It's just that point in the year too, where for me, it just is our schedule, and what we do is I just think that next game, when is it? How many, is it tomorrow? Is it the next? And we plan for that and the opponent, and I don't go too much further after that.
Yeah.
So I'm just in the moment sort of thing. And so calendar year, take it or leave it.
Yeah. So the Blazers are playing a little bit better basketball. Everyone getting healthy too. That's kind of the one thing too. If nothing else, like they're basically, they're just down to Matisse at this point in terms of not being available. Well, Delano's been out the last couple of games after he took that really hard fall. Was that in Portland?
It was at home.
It was a home game. Yeah, boy, and
that was bad.
He hit hard.
Yeah.
Well, then Ant had one too. I mean, in that game in the Nuggets game,
the slide,
Ant slid and fell, and I hate that. Was like a cartoon style, like slipping on a banana peel one. And when he was getting on the plane after the next day, I kind of assumed he was going to be sore, and I was like, how's your back? And he's like, my back is fine. He's like, my elbow it feels terrible, but my back is okay.
And then, that's funny, in the post game press conference, he said that, my elbows, and then was it you or someone was like, how's your head? He's like, did I hit my head? And then someone's like, it looked like you didn't hit your head. He's like, I'm pretty sure I hit my head.
Yeah. No, that wasn't me, because I was doing the Donovan Q&A with his ticket holders. So.
Oh, never mind. So he thought he hit his head. Someone else was, but you didn't hit your head. And he's like, I think I did hit my head.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably did. Who's to say? Yeah.
Who's to say? But he definitely was talking about his elbows, which that stuff, I hate sliding, slipping out there, because, you don't want to then second guess it the next time you're down. You want to trust that you're not going to slip and fall. So that's when that happened. I was like, oh gosh, no! But he bounced back quickly.
Yeah, that is one of those things about being an athlete, professional athlete. I guess any kind of athlete, but particularly if you're a professional, is they always talk about like having a short memory. And usually when you're talking about like defensive backs, but I've often thought that there's so many things in sports that, like, if that happened to me, it would take me a long time to get over that. So if I drove into the lane and like slipped and like fell like that, like I would be thinking about that for a week afterwards.
I was thinking about it for a week and I didn't even do it.
And you can't do that as a professional athlete. It's like, no, you got to get, like, the way you have to throw your body around in order to be successful. Again, like anytime a guy has a knee injury, like I remember I asked Rob this, obviously Rob is a guy who's had some injuries, and when he's coming back from his rehabilitation, there was some people talk about, like, part of that return is like getting over the idea that, like, boy, I kind of hurt this. Can I play gingerly? And, he told a story about how, he was in practice and like Scoot threw him a lob and he finished it and he was like, I'm good now. And that was like 4 weeks before he even started playing in games again. And I was just thinking to myself, like, if that was me and like I'm going up for a rebound, I'm fighting, I'm jostling, like I feel like it would be really hard for me to kind of put that behind me.
Mm-hmm.
Because even like I tore out my ACL playing kickball 15, 20 years ago. And even when I like jump off of something, I think like, oh, don't land on your left leg. Like, don't land on your right leg. So
healthy fear or healthy,
but
having your mind.
It just goes to show that like that mentality of being an athlete, like obviously like the physical piece is super important, but like just that mental piece to be like, I'm going to do a thing that resulted in me getting injured, but I'm going to do it again because that's how I need to be successful. It's just like,
well, I feel the same way.
That's always been a really an interesting thing for me. Like, just that mentality.
And we don't have to go all the way back there, but I mean, and I had this pretty emotional sit down with Nurk after his injury about coming back. And I was like, how do you approach it? I mean, he's like, I just can't think about it. But I mean, can you imagine that happening to you every time you go? It was a simple rebound and going back up and thinking, I hope I don't come down and, do that again, because again, that was such a freak thing. But yeah, I would have a hard time not thinking about it all the time and being like, okay, I got to come down in the best way possible. I would just overthink it. But that's like an all-time story. I mean, that one's like on another level, but just the fact to come back and still go up and try to get rebounds. I'm like, that's impressive.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
Absolutely. Well, it kind of leads into like, so I've been working on a story. I'm going to write something about Tumani drawing charges. He's one of the leaders this year in drawing charges. And yeah, just that idea that like, I'm going to put myself in a position where like, I know this is not going like, I might get the call and that's going to feel good, but I'm also going to get run over by a guy. And like, I haven't fallen on a court in some time. Like, I don't even just like getting hit to the ground. It's like, man, how do you guys do that? Well, like,
they're in very good shape.
And these guys that are huge and moving fast, and like, that like, this is going to hurt, like, and so that's asking players into mind, like, well, how do you get good at taking charges? Like, how do you, like, what does it take to be good at that?
And a little bit crazy in there.
Yeah, no, and that's part of it is like, you, and I think Rob was like, you basically just have to like come to the conclusion, like, yeah, this is going to hurt, but that's what I'm here for. Yep. So I'm going to do it. So that mentality is, I think it's foreign to a lot of us who don't play sports for a living. So
yeah, I think so too. But I mean, he's got it down. It's a true skill, and it comes down to footwork too. You got to make sure you're set and all that. But you're right. You have to absorb the hit, and you have to just know it's coming. And he's really good at it. He's really good. That is truly a skill.
Yeah, and you can learn how to fall. I think that's part of it too. Is I think some guys kind of learn how to like, talking about Ant falling and like hurting his elbows. That's kind of one of the things. It's like when they tell you to fall, like, don't put your arms down. Like hold them up because you're going to break your wrist if you kind of put it down. And so there's just a lot of things to consider when you're out there with 9 other people who are enormous and fast and strong, and at least 5 of those other people maybe not looking to do harm to you, but definitely not looking to do you any favors. And if they can inflict a little bit of pain upon you, it's that works out for them. So so the Trailblazers trying to finish the thing up. And then, we finish up this trip in Texas, and then we have 3 more home games before the calendar turns over and before we hit the road for a long trip. So that we also ended Dallas, by the way, 2 point. We played Dallas a lot in the schedule this year too is like, it seems like we like play everyone in 1 month. You play the Spurs 4 times, you play the Pelicans 3 times, you play the Mavs 4 times. Like, they're like, let's get all these over with right away. Like, let's not drag this out any longer than we have to. So kind of an interesting quirk. So, a chance for the team to, I wouldn't say build momentum, and a Dallas team that you've played close. So you play them 2 times in the next 5 days. So I think maybe take some of the things you did in the last game versus Dallas. Hopefully you can apply some of those things. Who's to say who's going to be playing for the Mavericks as well? It sounds like Luka has kind of been in and out of the lineup. So that probably helps Portland's cause if that is the case. Then you get a Utah Jazz team again that, you had a horrible performance against. So maybe a chance to, end 2024 with a feeling good about kind of the way that goes. Then you play Dallas at home again on the 28th. And then you finish off the year versus the Philadelphia 76ers. No Jared McCain, by the way, out for the season, which is a bummer.
I am so bummed about that. What a joyous young man.
Yeah, he's like, what a fun guy. Like I really appreciate a guy that comes in the league and like
this is me.
He likes to do the things he likes to do, and he like seen throughout the years too that this is gonna. It's not like guys get like beaten down by the league, but like you're coming into a locker room with 14 other guys. They're older than you. They've been around. You've been watching them on TV. A lot of these guys for a while, like. And I feel like a lot of times, like it's hard to maybe kind of retain like whatever that personality is, like you. I wouldn't say you want to conform necessarily.
You suppress it a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. You just don't want to kind of be out there. And like I really respect that he was like, oh, like I do my TikTok dances, I paint my fingernails, like I do what I want to do, and if guys want to make fun of me, then fine, make fun of me. And the other thing too, when you're a rookie, they're gonna make fun of you anyways. So like you might as well like do what you're gonna do. Yeah, like the videos like with him and like sitting next to Kyle Lowry and Kyle Lowry just being kind of there like but also you can tell Kyle is like, okay. I think someone mentioned too, like Kyle Lowry might have kids that are like around the same age as Jerry McCain. So
that's like, I know about all about the TikTok.
That's one of those things too, where I also feel like players are playing a little longer into their careers now. And so you're getting situations where you're like, yeah, like I fully, you were a kid or maybe not even born when I first started playing in the NBA, which, it's one of those things that too, like a locker room is such a interesting place because you have guys from all over the place. I mean, like Portland's locker room, it's a super international locker room. You got guys who, guys like Scoot who are super young. We don't have really a lot of like older veterans, but guys that have been around for a little bit. It's just it takes a lot of different things to have an NBA locker room, and then it can just kind of go a lot of different ways. And I don't even know where I'm really going with this, Brooke, but I just feel like since we're at the end of the year, it's a little reflecting on the nature of the NBA and the Portland Trail Blazers, and a good locker room for Portland too. You talk about kind of the practice. And that's one of the things that I feel like we get questions about a lot, or at least I feel like I get questions about a lot, which, when they lose by 20 to the Spurs, like what was the locker room like afterwards? And there's always this idea that it's going to be like guys throwing coolers and getting into fights. Like that does happen, like I've seen it. But over the course of a 82 game season, you got to kind of, you got to be measured a little bit. And, you want guys to be on the edge and, take losing hard, which they do, but also like there's only so much utility in that. And so I think it's important to have a team that, like they can go through some adversity and things can not go great, but then, they get together the next day and get back to work. And I feel like that's what they did today in Dallas. Also too, like, I feel like we practice in Dallas a lot. Like it's one of those places where
very familiar.
The schedule always just times out to where like, oh, let's have a practice in Dallas. So
yeah, no, it's they have their practice, their second gym, which is meant for them to practice and for opposing teams to come in on a day off and have practice. And nice facility. It's smaller gym, but that's kind of par for the course.
Supposedly they have another practice facility somewhere. At least Rasan was saying that. He's like, I feel like we practiced there once. I don't think I've ever been there before.
I don't think I've ever been there before. If you haven't been there, I haven't been there. But no, yeah, it was good. It was good. They got a lot in. Like I said, the film session to start, which was great. They watched some of the San Antonio game, and then talked about what to expect from Dallas, and then just had some like a fun little. I guess it was a scrimmage essentially.
Yeah.
And fundamentals. Dave was saying, we're kind of getting back to fundamentals. We got a little bit away from that, so that's something we focused on at the beginning of practice, and then they had a fun scrimmage. Dwap had a sick dunk. Did you see that?
No, I heard something happen, but no, I didn't actually see that it was
a great move. Yeah, he had a couple great plays, and someone's like, he's been in the weight room because he was like really just
weight room.
Yeah, he was battling down there, but yeah, it's good. Yeah, you're right. There's such a long season that yes, you have to reflect on that game, what we could have done differently, what we could have done better, adjustments we should have made, and think about it so that you're prepared for the next game, but you can't wallow in it, or because the next game is going to be there, and you have to get into the right mindset. So yes, look back, what could we have done differently? What could I have done differently personally? Blah, blah, blah. And then you just got to get up for the next one. It's 82 games. It's a long season.
Yeah. Got 10 blocks of Victor Wembanyama in that game. That's 10 blocks.
10 blocks. Yeah.
Five steals for Anthony, by the way, too. Yeah. Shout out for Anthony Simons for getting 5 steals versus the Spurs. Way to go, Ant.
Career high.
But 10 blocks that's a lot.
I mean, not to take anything away from him, but I mean, he's.
Like, it's not fair. It shouldn't count the same. Yeah.
I mean, he just has to stand there for most of them. But no, he's an incredible athlete. And the body control for that being that tall, and he's got a nose for the ball. Obviously, the height clearly helps. But 10 blocks. I mean, as weird as I'm not totally shocked. Like that's
when he had Jeremy in the corner.
Oh yeah, that one was wild.
Those are the ones for me where I'm always like,
yeah,
come
on, man.
I feel like Donovan in that game too was getting pissed off.
He was.
Like I thought for sure he was going to get a technical in that one. Like I remember, there was one point where he got called for a foul and he was complaining to one of the referees about it and was kind of like,
"Yeah,
what's the deal?" And then I could tell he was looking around for another referee to go to be like, yeah, like he was going to continue it upon. Yeah, but
when Donovan gets his first technical, I'll be a proud mama.
Yeah, that's a decent little game for 7 points, 6 rebounds in 13 minutes for Donovan as well. But interesting to have Jeremy defend Wembanyama, which it does kind of make some sense considering he is more of a wing than a center. Obviously, when you're 7'3" or 4 or whatever he is, you just assume you have the center guard him, but it's he doesn't play that way. No. And I feel like Jeremy does a pretty good job on him, and that's one of those things too where I'm sure that's not especially pleasant for Jeremy. He goes 2 of 12, 1 of 6 from 3, and I think a lot of that is because he's I'm trying to body up this guy that is literally twice my size. But I feel like he does a pretty good job with it, and those are the times too where Jeremy got a technical the last time we played, or 2 times ago when we played in San Antonio, defending Wembanyama, and that was the one too. I was like, you guys gave Jeremy a tech? And I asked him about it after the game. He's like, yeah. I was like, what's the deal? I was like, I'm just trying to get low. I just kept trying to
that's right.
undercut me.
Yeah. So. They were kind of going
back they were going back a little bit. Yeah.
Well, Coach had said when I asked him yesterday or before the San Antonio game, as we always do when we talk about San Antonio, how are you going to defend Victor? And he said exactly that. He's like, Jeremy, it's going to be a team thing, but Jeremy did a really nice job last time we played, or thought he did a good job last time we played. So he's like, we'll have Jeremy on him the most, but we'll shuffle around. But he was pleased with how he defended him the game before. Yeah,
it was a good one. And also, I was able to get my carnitas taco that I tried to save and then got stolen.
I've been waiting for this.
Yeah, no, well, I don't want to talk. I kind of feel a little bit bad about it. I'm glad that I got it back. But I specifically purchased that taco after I'd already bought all my other food because I was like, I'm going to have this after the game. And then I put it in the warm and I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And then Hallie, she's like, it disappeared. And then I found it, or then it came back and then it disappeared again.
Oh, it disappeared a first time.
So that wasn't even the first time that someone tried to take it. So what happens is, we have a little warming bin thing where our food is at after the game. And I put a carnitas taco that I got from Don Rowell in San Antonio, which is the best carnitas I've ever had.
Oh, wow.
Go there. It's fantastic. I'm actually mad that was the first time I've ever been there because we've been staying at that hotel now for a minute, and it's a fairly quick walk from that hotel. And I'm mad at myself that was the first time I'd been. And so I got it, and it was fantastic. So then before I left, I was like, I'm going to get another taco so I can enjoy it after the game. And yeah, it disappeared. And I sent a text message telling people to get right with their God, which on retrospect, I was like, oh, maybe a little bit, it's a joke. And if you know me, it's a joke, but also, sending out a text blast to a bunch of people being like, whoever took my taco is going to
10 people probably on that text.
Fear my wrath. And then when I got onto the plane, it was sitting on my chair. So
do you want to know the story?
Yes, I do.
I waited for the
podcast
to tell you. So you were the last probably to get your food because you in the locker room. It's a long story, but if we don't win, if we lose by a certain amount of points, we kind of give them the night off, So we kind of have a cutoff period. So I didn't go in, but I was still probably the second to last to get my food. Everyone else had already gotten it, because we interview Coach afterwards. And honest to God, I thought that everyone else got one, and this was just the last one. So I grabbed
Brooke,
it.
Oh, I'm so glad it was you, Brooke. I am so glad it was you. That makes me feel so good. You could have eaten it, and that would have been fine. I don't think you would have liked it actually, but
I love carnitas.
Yeah, it's a little dry though.
Oh, I don't like dry.
So I had a salsa verde with it, and that disappeared. And I figured at that point too, I was like, you can't expect a salsa verde is going to make the trip too.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So it was you.
It was me. So
and now that I think about it, it's understandable
Well,
because
I
it was
didn't
just
think I
in
was
there.
taking
Like,
some
yeah,
ones.
yeah.
I'm like, oh,
I didn't like write my name on it.
I just figured because every once in a while there's like like side
like
salads,
little things,
and there's only one. I'm like, okay, this is the last one. But I honestly was like, maybe I should text Casey and see if he wants it because I don't want to take the last one, and then but then he wouldn't have even known that these were in here. So I took it thinking everyone else had one, and it was just the last one. And then I saw Casey's text wishing us
wishing ill will on whoever took my carnitas taco out of the warmer.
I read it and I just start dying laughing.
I'm so glad it was you.
It was me.
That makes me feel so much better. Actually,
so I sit down and Greg, who's the closest to me, I go, Greg, you're gonna die. I go, I took the taco. I thought everyone else had a taco. And he's like, oh my gosh. And then I go, what I did is I put it on a seat so that he'll see it because he's gonna get on. We planned this whole thing out. He's gonna get on and start MFing all of us about the taco, and then he's gonna see it in his seat. And then after I said that, Kevin Claver behind me goes, oh, I already knew all about the taco in the warmer. He told me about it earlier.
Well, and then Randy's like, well, don't you think you should apologize now? You got to taco back. And I was like, no, because no one should have taken it in the first place. But then I was like, no, but I guarantee what ended up happening is that someone assumed like, oh, we get a little taco too. Fun. It was just the last one. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And I had to be a whiny.
I'm so glad you did send it though, because I would have felt terrible. Like if I had eaten it, I was like, oh, this looks like the perfect thing for me to take and put it in the fridge maybe, and I'll have it later because it's just like individually wrapped. Because the other, the food we get, it's kind of hard to eat because it's like, So I was like, I'll just save it for later. When I saw that, I was like, oh my goodness. Thank God I did not eat this taco.
Well, because it was one of those things too where it's like I bought it and then I'd already eaten. Part of the reason why I bought it because I was just like, this was really good. I want to have more. But in the interim between like ordering it and getting it, how like when you eat and you get kind of full afterwards, I was like, okay, I can't eat another taco. And so I was like, oh, but I can take it and have it after the game because I also know too that San Antonio is a place where they do concourse food. And since it's a short flight too, I was like, I know we're probably not going to eat on the plane. And so like I'd be like, oh, this and then when I put it in the warmer too, I was like, oh, this is going to be so good. I was like, what fun.
So good. You told Kevin Calabro about it.
Exactly. I was like, hey, I got a taco I brought with me, Kevin. And then for it to disappear, I was just like, you gotta be kidding me.
You should have seen me when I saw the text. I was sitting on the bus. I had tears and I was like, I cannot wait. So I made sure I was the first one off the bus and I ran back to your seat and put it on your seat. I even looked at Josie. I was like, which side are you on? Which side is he? And she's like, I think I'm on this side. I was like, okay, I need to know what his seat is. So I went and made sure, I double checked to make sure it was your seat, put it down. And as you got on, I was like, this is playing out exactly how I wanted it to.
what a well-oiled machine that ended up being. So yeah.
My gosh, it was so funny.
So Don Rao in San Antonio, fantastic carnitas. It's behind the fire station on St. Mary's, I think, or it's off St. Mary's, by the highest rated private Catholic high school in San Antonio. They have a big sign up that says we're the highest rated private Catholic school in San Antonio.
Seems like a weird thing to say.
I remember it seemed kind of boastful too. I was like, it's like,
how do you rate that? I mean, I guess if you look at like academics, I don't know, but that seems like a funny thing to have out in front.
Yeah, and the other thing I noticed about it too is that they have a fence around their grounds and a bunch of trees in the courtyard. There's one tree that they built the fence around to make it outside of the fence. So I was like, why? Like, almost like they were like, we don't want this tree. This tree.
We do not claim this tree.
We're not claiming it because literally it was just like this one little square that it was. So I don't know if maybe they were like, this is an evil tree or maybe. And they had like a snake mascot, which I thought for a Catholic school especially was kind of weird because in the serpent,
that is interesting.
Adam and Eve, and
how do you feel about? I'm sure you know about this because maybe you don't. But Kevin, when Shaedon does something wild, Cobra.
So when I tweeted out a photo of Shaedon in that dunk, and someone said Cobra, and so I assume that must be what they said. I think that's great.
It's great.
Like it actually, when you kind of think about it. It kind of looks like a cobra, like he does like that big cock back, and you can kind of the cobra's got that big whatever those are they called, fins or they're not fins, but think they have that thing around their face, it kind of that's good.
And of course, in his amazing voice when he goes Cobra,
yeah,
it's really good. He comes up with these things. I don't know how, but that's why he's Kevin Clever.
Yeah, a lot of Shaedon dunks too lately. I feel like he's kind of he's actually
very aggressive
offensively too. Like he's really seems like he's starting to understand. Like, I mean, my 3-point shot is there. I'm good at it. Like that's always going to be there for me. But like I have a lot more success if I'm going to get to the rim, and he's doing it regularly now. And if he can just start to do that consistently, there's no telling what he can do.
To that point, the San Antonio game, Lamar really broke it down, but he's like, that was amazing decision making from Shaedon. He went up to shoot a three, faked, and went straight to the rack and completely caught his defender. Like he got him good. Like it was a beautiful play. Like it's what you're supposed to do. And he goes up and you think he's going to shoot three. Nope. Just kidding. Zoom, goes around him and got right to the rack. And I'm like, yes, that's beautiful. Yeah, you're right. You can shoot the three, but if you see that lane open, you can, trick your defender. And it was a thing of beauty.
Absolutely. Well, I'm just going to spring this on you, Brooks. We didn't really do much of an outline for the show, but if you were going to give a Christmas gift to the Portland Trailblazers,
oh my goodness, I would give them. Let's see, I would give them only because Coach talks about it so much, and the guys do too, and they're they hear it and they're thinking about it. I would give them the gift of rebounding. Oh. Because they always talk about trying to improve in that area. And then that would obviously lead to second chance buckets. And those really are helpful. And if you can win that battle, it's a good thing. So I think that they would receive it and they would give it to themselves as well.
Yeah. I'll follow up on that. And I'll say transition defense.
Okay.
Transition defense is hard.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those things too, where it's like, teams talk about transition defense. Like, yeah, but I mean, we're running after them. It's kind of hard. But I feel like if transition defense is an area for the Blazers when things are going pretty well for them, I feel like what ends up happening a lot of times when it doesn't go well is they get beat in transition. I feel like that's kind of what happened in the end of the first half versus the Spurs. It felt like they were getting beat in transition, then that resulted in a bunch of 3-pointers. There was one play, I even mentioned it to Chauncey, and he was like, he gave me the look like, I don't want to talk about it, kind of where end of the first half, Spurs rotated the ball kind of in the secondary transition to Wembanyama in the corner, and no one moved. Like he was just, the closest defender was probably 10 feet away.
Oh, no.
And everyone was just kind of like looking at each other. And I'm just like, somebody, please. And I was like, that possession, he's like, the 3-pointer. Yeah. And I was like, yeah. And he's like,
just a breakdown. And that's a coach. I mean, that's something
and that's something that, that Chauncey has talked about, that like when they have success, it's because they stay locked in. And that's, I had asked about, they had the loss to San Antonio in Portland where it was a close game, but they ended up losing at the end. And then you have the game versus the Nuggets where you end up winning it at the end. What's the difference? Like, why are you able to win one game versus the Nuggets, but you kind of lose the other one versus the Spurs? And he's like, it's all about like being locked in the entire game. And he's like, versus the Spurs, we were locked in for 40 minutes in that game, but it's 48 minutes. And those last 8 minutes, he's like, we didn't necessarily give it away. They took it from us. But like, if we had been more determined and again, like just locked in on the things we need to do, even if we're not especially playing well, then we're going to be able to ride out some of these issues. And that's what they did versus the Nuggets. He's like, we played all 48 minutes. We were locked into that game for 48 minutes. And that's the, I won't say the only way this Blazer team can have success, but it is the most viable path to success, is to really be bought in for 48 minutes. And that, it's a long season. That's hard to do. But every time they do it, like it's almost like you can see it almost, it's like it has almost kind of like tangible things you can look at and be like, that they are not lost in the game, but like they are in it. Like they're a part of this game right now. And it just seems like sometimes it's like they just lose that a little bit. And then the next thing you're down 15 points. Yeah, no,
and Coach talked about that in post game, but I've heard him say it numerous times throughout the year. Like like you mentioned, like it has to be all 48. You have a lull. Teams can, any team in this league can jump out and go on a run, and that's the NBA. And if you're not locked in for the entire game, it can get away from you. It feels like in seconds. Yeah. It feels like, wait a second, this game was tied, and you can see like maybe the connectedness isn't there, the focus isn't there for some reason. I don't know what that reason is, but not completely locked in. And then it's hard to come out of a hole, especially when you were in control for a while. You're not even in control, but in the game, and then all of a sudden you look up and you're down 15, and you're like, "What just happened? What fell through?" And I think you're right. It's about being focused and just making sure that there aren't any lulls and that you're playing all 48.
Yeah, absolutely. And so hopefully the Blazers are able to maybe do that versus this Mavs team. We'll see who's again. I'm not sure if Luke is going to play, and that obviously has a difference, but I think we've seen for the Blazers too, like the other team can be missing their better players, and sometimes that doesn't go the way you want it to either. So hopefully they're able to finish out this trip and this year with some good performances, Brooke. So you got anything you done Christmas wise?
Oh, I mean,
I had plans to try to do some stuff on this trip. I mean, I'm pretty much done anyways, but
I did too. But today seems like well, obviously I had practice in that. And then this podcast. So I had big plans on doing something today, just finishing up a few little things.
It's also Sunday in Texas though, which is like, that's
nothing.
That's a different animal.
Yeah. So I ran out of hairspray, and I'm going to have to go, hopefully, Dickie's Barbecue and get lunch and hairspray. All in one stop.
You're getting the hairspray at Dick's?
I mean, normally I would go to like a CVS and get like the kind I like. But
so, okay, that's a good point. I'm glad you brought up Dickie's. You just told me the other day you don't like barbecue.
It's my least favorite food, like genre of food, but they're just a little different. Like they have the cheddar sausage, which I like, and I don't
cheddar sausage. And that cheddar sausage isn't necessarily like scream barbecue, even though it is.
And they have wonderful sides. They have collard greens. They're so good over there. Collard greens. They have mac and cheese, of course, and then they have some really good desserts. Have you ever had chess pie? Chess.
I feel like it sounds familiar, but I don't. It's like
kind of like pecan, but different. And that's the other thing I love over there. So it's specific to that place, but overall, I wouldn't like seek out barbecue. But for some reason, that I don't know. It's just become a tradition of mine, Case. So yeah, see if they have some. Usually they have those like travel hairsprays or whatever. I just need something to get me through tomorrow because I never run out because I use so much. But I didn't bring my backup one, which I know exactly where it is at home. So hopefully get that and my barbecue and go to bed early.
Yeah, you're right too. That like you have places on the road that you go to, and you keep going to them, even if I'm not saying this is the case here, but even if they kind of let you down a couple of times, you're like, no, this is where I go to in San Antonio. This is where I go to in Dallas.
Yes.
Like, and I mentioned that too because so the carnitas place in San Antonio, like I usually go to the Pandaria in San Antonio, but this time I was like, you know what, I'm going to try something different this time.
Yeah.
And I set off to get breakfast tacos, and then it just turned into getting carnitas anyways. But yeah, like sometimes you just get, it's not a rut. Like it's because it feels good.
Yeah,
like
I love it.
You have like it's a comfort thing.
It is like, no,
thing. I know that I can go here, and I know what I'm gonna get, and there's some value in that. And again, same with a team. It's like you're not necessarily gonna win every night, but it's like, is there something I can rely on? Like what can we like? We're going to say we're always going to do this, like, and it's going to be there. Some nights it's not going to be as good as others. Sometimes a chess pie isn't going to.
I love this comparison to Dickie's One Stop Barbecue.
Like, I know it's going to be there, and if I can just rely on that, that's going to have some value to it. And so yeah,
I like the comparison.
That's apt, bro.
Yeah, and it's close.
It's close too. Yeah, and convenience is important as well.
Yeah, especially with. Like I said, going to bed early tonight and kind of want to get everything ready to go. And so if I can just go knock that out, come home, figure out the heat in my room because it's absolutely freezing.
This hotel, too, it's amazing that it's freezing too because this hotel is usually sweltering. Like the hallways are usually ridiculous.
That's true. That's true.
Speaking of hallways too, so the Clippers were staying there last night as we were coming back from practice. Clippers are leaving. And yeah, there's old James Harden walking out of his room. And I was like, hey, James. He's like, hey, man, what's going on?
Yeah. And then I walked right by him, too.
Yeah. And he addressed Brooke by name.
He said, hey, Brooke. I was like, what? That's so funny. You know what I think? I think it is that, some of these players are just, NBA heads where they watch,
very true.
League pass all the time. I know Dame watched everything.
They watch some guys literally watch every single game.
Yeah. So maybe that's the only reason that he would know my name because I've never chatted with him before. But I was like, But then it was like, oh, I wish I would have said something like nicer then. I mean, I just said, hey.
Well, I don't know. Like,
Hey.
yeah, you're in the NBA. I'm in the NBA. You know.
Yeah, it was funny.
Same idea.
As he was getting closer, I was like, oh. And then I mean, we knew that they were staying here, but I just, it took me a second. Then, so I just said, hey, because, I would have said hey to anyone because you're walking just by yourselves.
It just makes sense too.
Yeah, but when he said that, I was like, oh, can't wait to tell Casey. He said, hey, Brooke.
Yeah. I was like, oh, hey. Yeah, I literally kept my door open to be like, hey, James. Like a weirdo. Like, get back in your room.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Blazers Balcony presented by Spirit Mountain Casino. Real quick, though, too, if you don't have any plans for New Year's Eve, Spirit Mountain Casino. Oh. That's your place to go. They're doing their Spirit Mountain.
I don't have any plans for New Year's Eve.
Brooklyn might be and I think we're leaving on New Year's Day for that trip. But from 10 p.m. to 12:30, they're having the Spirit Mountain and the Chocolate Factory Golden Ticket celebration on New Year's Eve, bringing the New Year's at the Ultimate Casino New Year's celebration. Whether you're looking for a night of thrilling entertainment or a festive escape, Spirit Mountain Casino Resort is the perfect destination for your New Year's Eve travel plans. Join the folks at Spirit Mountain Casino for fun with drink specials, gaming actions, and the traditional countdown at midnight. Z100, DJ Fatboy will be there as well. The event center from 10 to 12:30. Free entry, exciting party favors. One of the best casinos for your New Year's dance. One of the best casinos to be at for your New Year's Eve dance the night away. Brooklyn. Check out Spirit Mountain Casino on Highway 18 Grand Ronde, even though they took down Brooks' billboard, unfortunately. Ew. But Spirit Mountain's there. Elevate your game.
Your name is DJ Fatboy. I bet the music's phenomenal.
It's got to be.
It's got to be good. You wouldn't, you know what I mean? Like, if you're going to go all in and be like, my name is DJ Fatboy, he's got to be really, really talented.
I, as a young person and even as a teenager, like, I never considered the idea that people in television or radio had fake names. So, like, there's a guy like Marty Party. I always thought that guy's name was actually Marty Party. I was like, wow, what a cool name. Like,
oh my gosh.
It makes perfect sense you would go into radio because your name's Bill Frequency or something like that. And it's like, no, Casey, people actually change their names.
Yes, that's really, really funny. Yeah, they sure do that. But yeah, maybe I will do that, Casey. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, you could go to Spirit Mountain Casino on Highway 18 in Grand Ronde to elevate your game for the New Year's celebration and be back in town. I bet we're probably not leaving until the afternoon since we're going to Los Angeles. I'm still I don't think I'm going to be able to get down for the Rose Bowl, but
I was going to say either we're going to leave early enough for people to go if they want to, or we're going to leave late enough so that you can watch.
So in the back of the plane when we were leaving for San Antonio, a few of us were having a discussion like, do you think if we mentioned to Chauncey that if maybe we could go early, if you think maybe we'd do an earlier flight? Mm-hmm. And everyone's like, well, why don't you ask him? And I was like, well, why don't you ask? And I was like, I think it'd probably be better coming from you. And long story short, we're all cowards. And so it's not going to happen.
It will be what will be. Have you been to the Rose Bowl?
No.
It's so beautiful.
I've heard great things.
It's awesome. And it's like old enough that it seems, it's still, the tradition is just wonderful. But I've heard that they're going to do some renovations, which it could use too. But I mean, it's still like the mystique of it all. You don't care that the bathrooms are old and all that stuff just because it's the Rose Bowl.
It's the granddaddy of them all.
It's the granddaddy of them all. I've been lucky enough to go to like 4, but back now it's 2 and running with the pack.
I mean, not with Washington State though, because not
that. No, I went for work. Like I've only been for work, but it's.
Yeah, what's your Dickert take, by the way? Too?
I can't. It's just this course. Of course, he left. That's what coaches do.
Wake
and
Forest?
Quarterbacks. I know. No, they come in. They elevate our program, which great, but it's a means to an end. It's as soon as it happens. Like we talked about this, Tony Bennett comes in. Well, his dad comes in, then he comes in. And we improved so much. We're a really fun team. And then he leaves to go to Virginia. So it's just, I was listening to Danny and Dusty, and they had I can't remember if someone texted this in. Someone's idea was just get weird and go hire Dennis Erickson back.
Dude, Hurricane Dennis, man, like his time has come again. Like particularly like the way that he moved, like the current college football landscape. Right up that guy's alley.
I would be here for it.
Yeah,
do it.
He might have like a show cause though, or like when there's always guys like that, I'm always like, there's something that like, I mean, one, you would hope that they would just come to the conclusion like, yeah, I don't need this in my life anymore. But in my head, I'm always like, no, it's probably because like there's something out there. You're like, yeah, well, I don't need to have that.
Did I tell you that Mike Price? Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Did I tell you that Mike Price was our neighbor at the cabin for like 15,
I don't
20
think
years.
so. No.
Yeah, I would see him all the time. They're selling it now. I think they're retiring or not retired. He's already been retired, but like they're going somewhere warm all year. But yeah, he'd see him all the time. Bill Doba has a place on. It's a lot of coaches. The Montana coach, he's not. Anyways, a lot of head coaches have places out there. So if you're looking for a really, really nice, huge house on the water, couple bays down from me, Mike Price is on sale.
Ludicrous. Buy a place in Coeur d'Alene with your old friend Brooke Olzendam. Reunite your days in London on the streets.
Chit chat. That's so funny. My old buddy.
Not speaking of which, too, but also since Oregon is going to be rematching with Ohio State, a chance to potentially run back my bet with Evan Turner.
Yes.
He still owes me a ring. And I was like, well, Ev, like, if you want, we can maybe. He doesn't think that. I probably shouldn't be saying. He doesn't think Ohio State's going to win because I don't think he thought they were going to beat Tennessee. I think he was like, I don't know if they believe in Ryan Day anymore, but they ended up winning. So yeah, so we got our rematch, Evan. So
I bet he'll be there, right?
I kind of floated the idea to him because I was like, well, we're going to be down there too. Mm-hmm. That would make some sense to me, though. He also was at Oregon.
That's what I'm saying.
Lost. So I'm wondering if he's like, you know what? No, I'm over this. And now that basketball started too, maybe he's like, no, I'll just.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Well, I was just thinking if he made the trip to that Oregon one, that he would. But I think he was doing some other stuff in town too. But if he was going to do that, he would probably go to the Rose Bowl.
He could.
I don't know.
Yeah.
He's that guy. He just cracks me up. We were with someone on the LA road trip, and someone that works for us that sometimes travels, sometimes doesn't. And I forget how we got started talking about it. I was like, who's one, probably your favorite player of all time? I was like, well, I have a lot of, for different reasons, but one of the more entertaining, and I can say we were really close because we did a podcast together and we had just the weirdest things. Like, so I go, well, like that thing where I pulled over to help a girl and then he came in, he's like, no. So I told him that whole story. He's like, that's crazy. I was like, I know. Almost as crazy as when the semi went in his hole. He's like, what are you talking about? So I told him, he's like, oh, you hadn't heard about this? And I'm like, yeah, ET is just a walking story.
Yeah.
So I love the guy and miss him. But that would be fun if you guys could go. If he goes, it's always a good time. Him on Twitter and Instagram is just when I'm bored or need a little pick me up, I just go see what the heck he's talking about.
I love Ev too because a lot of people are always. People don't say what they really think or feel because, the backlash, understandable. Evan doesn't especially care about the backlash. So and sometimes I think he's trying, he wants it. So that's a good guy, that Evan Turner.
Yeah, he's the best.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, I did have one more thing.
Yes, please.
Casey came on the pregame show.
Yes, thank you for getting me on, Brooke. I appreciate that.
It was awesome. It was so fun, and I love that we got a shout out for Blazers Balcony and Casino from Neil. Thank you to Neil. But that was fun, and I'd like to do more of it.
I hope so too. Yes. I think we have a good chemistry. I think we bring something a little bit different, and
it was fun. It was really fun.
I didn't look too shiny. I didn't feel like so.
You look great.
I actually felt like I felt like you always look nice, Brooke, but I was like. I felt good. Actually, it was. I'm not going to say it. I'll say it off when we're done. It's not even that interesting, but it was something you had mentioned to me, and then I noticed it on myself, and I was like, I haven't looked like that.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, you'll figure it out,
okay.
And you'll hear it here in a second because we were done on this edition of the Blazers Balcony.
Leave them hanging.
Presented by Spirit Mountain Casino. We'll be back. I think we'll get one more before the calendar turns over to 2025. Probably. We'll see. But if not soon, I'm not going to do this anymore.
I know. Every time.
You got to stop me.
As a good partner,
yes, you can.
This
is your show. You got to be like, Casey, stop. Don't do it anymore.
Stop doing it.
Like if you see someone biting their fingernails, be like, hey.
Okay.
I don't know if you you're doing it right now, but you are.
Okay.
Please stop.
Yes.
So for myself and Brooke, thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you some point in time. Who's to say? It'll be fun. Brooke.
Peace out.